My name is Miriam Newcomb. I'm 12 years old. I live in Anchorage, Alaska, and I'm talking to my grandfather, who I call Jaju.
Hi, this is Fred Kacprzynski. I'm 82 years old. I'm in Gilford, New Hampshire. And of course, I'm talking to Miriam, my granddaughter.
First question is, why did you decide to work for the Forest Service?
Funny thing, Miriam. I was working at the hospital, the Krause Irving Hospital in Syracuse, New York. And one day I had a particularly dirty job. I don't even tell you what it was, but it was a dirty job. And I thought to myself, I can't do this for the rest of my life. And I knew the forestry school was very near the hospital where I worked. It was within walking distance. It was a State University College of Forestry at Syracuse. So I said, I better go up there and look and see what they have. Because it was a state school, it was cheap to go. So I walked up in there, looked around, talked to some people. And then I said, well, I think I'm going to try that. And then when I got out of forestry college after 4 years, I really wasn't ready to work. I ended up going to the Peace Corps for 2 years. When I got from the Peace Corps, I went to school again at Michigan State for resource development. That was a master's degree. When I got out of that, I tried a couple of jobs. Particularly, I tried jobs with the private forest industry. Didn't get any response from them. And I also tried with the Forest Service and the Park Service. The one from the Forest Service sounded like the best of them. So I tried that.
How long did you end up working for the Forest Service?
Probably 40 plus years.
How did you meet Grandma?
When I was working at the hospital, at Krause Irving Hospital, it was also a teaching hospital where they had student nurses. Grandma was a student nurse. The story was that they shouldn't mix with the employees, not the doctors. They can mix with the doctors and the other nurses, but not with the employees because they were marginal people. We still weren't supposed to go out with us. But anyway, I remember the first date we took. I had trouble with my teeth. I had broken a tooth years and years before, and on the night before the date, I broke my tooth off. So I was on a date and I had a big blank spot where my tooth was. I didn't know she was going to keep going out with me, but she did.
What funny story do you remember about your childhood?
You know, during the 50s, the early 50s, they were always worried about atomic wars. You didn't know that, but you do now. And they used to have practice things where they would run the alarms and everybody would have to get under the tables during school and all that sort of stuff. And then they also had practice emergency places where they had doctors and nurses. And my brother and a couple of friends, we had this game we used to play. I don't know what it was called, but we used to hide in the weeds and the other people would stand on a hill and throw rocks up there, see if they can find out where you were. Guess what? I got hit in the head with a rock right there on the left side of the forehead. Bled like crazy. You got a lot of veins in your head. My mother and father went home, but my sister was home, and she took me to one of these emergency places that would practice in for atomic wars. I was the only patient that was really a patient. All the others were pretend patients, and I got a couple stitches in my head. So that I thought was pretty funny. Now, I didn't think it was funny then.
What do you remember about growing up in the house at Fay Road?
Fay Road was in Syracuse. It was actually outside of Syracuse. I remember our bedroom was upstairs, and we always had a little bitty window at the bottom of the stairs that looked out. There was a street light. When it snowed out, the snow always looked like it was, I don't know if it was glistening or shining. It was very pretty. And I'll always remember walking up that stairway and looking out the window at that street light with the snow coming down. And then the other thing, you know the taps that the military plays at funerals? There was a cemetery within sight of the house because there was the house and then there was a valley and then the cemetery. It was a Polish cemetery of all things where your great-grandmother and grandfather are buried. My mother and father are buried. But anyway, we grew up in the 50s during the Korean War, and every once in a while you could stay on the back of that hill and you'd hear them playing taps for a funeral service. Very haunting song that coming across the field and then standing on the back porch and listening to that. All my brothers and sisters grew up there. I never knew my oldest sister, Honor. She was out of the house by then. She had been married and gone. Now that I'm talking about it, I remember another story. My brother and I, we had a couple of chemistry sets. We used to make gunpowder. You know, we tried to make fireworks. You'd make gunpowder and you'd wrap it up in paper and then you'd put a fuse in it and light it and it was supposed to make a big bang. But if you didn't wrap it up tight, it wouldn't make a big bang. It would just shoot out of the end of the paper like a flare. And one night we were doing that one Saturday, I think, and it was in the wintertime. So my mother had sheets and stuff hanging up on the line in the basement. It shot the sparks out and it burned holes in all the sheets, and she didn't like that. She had to buy new sheets.
Were you the first person in your family to go to college?
I was. In the immediate family and in the extended family too, I think. My father went through 8th grade. My mother went through 3rd grade, and she got scarlet fever. So she had to stay home for an extended period, and they never sent her back to school. So she never got beyond the 3rd grade.
Any last stories that you have? Or any childhood foods that you remember?
Well, I'll tell you, the foods I did enjoy was that kibasi and hard-boiled eggs on Easter. And my mother always made a very nice roast chicken and roast potato meal, especially on Sundays, which I liked a lot. Another thing she always made very well was potato salad. I never had a potato salad that tasted like hers yet. She made a Christmas cookie, which I always liked. It was called a Kacprzynski. So those are some of the things. I still do keep in touch with my brother Frank, my sister Marianne. My sister Anna is pretty old now. She's in her 90s. You guys are going to live a long life because we all got long genes. My father died at 95. My sister is 92 or something like that. We're doing well.